Welcome back. Okay, so I want to talk about contenders today as I talked about teams that are not contenders for playoff spots yesterday. And when you get into contenders, I'm aware this is a topic that's going to be sensitive for some people. So, yep, Pittsburgh's not on the board. St. Louis isn't on the board. There are other teams that are not on the board that their fan bases won't be happy they're not there. But there has to be a cutoff. So I went with the top 8 teams according to the standings on the NHL's own website, and which cut off the Anaheim Ducks. And I also included Colorado because you have to. Colorado was picked by so many people before the season started. I didn't pick them. I picked Tampa. And I haven't seen anything so far this year to tell me Tampa may not be a good pick to win 3 in a row. And as much as that might anger people, should that actually happen, right now the numbers show Tampa's in an excellent position to do exactly that, to get that third straight Stanley Cup. So for Tampa, 30 games played so far this year, a record of 26-4. That is an incredible record. 44 points, 733 points percentage, which is second amongst the teams on the board behind Carolina, but not by much. So Tampa's played really well. They're 8-1-1 over their last 10. Regulation wins, they have 13. So they've won 7 after regulation's done. And again, it hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been like every game Tampa plays are absolutely perfect. Looking at the game against Vegas as an example, it's one of those 13 regulation wins, but it was one that maybe did they deserve? Did Vasilevsky steal it? I would argue yes, Vasilevsky pretty much stole it. Their home record, 10-3-2, is the same as the record away from home, 10-3-2. So for Tampa, they play same on the road, same at home, and it's a winning formula either way. Their goals for per game is actually lower than one might expect until you look at the injured list and see Kucherov and Point there. 3.2 goals for per game, which is 10th. So they're still top 10. Goals against per game, 2.6. They're 7th. The combination of that solid defense and the excellent goaltending of Vasilevsky, and Elliott's been decent when he's been in there too, has kept the goals against down. Their power play, bit problematic, but again, with star players out, you can understand they'd have an 18.7% power play, which is 18th in the National Hockey League. Completely understandable. Penalty kill, problem there too. 79.1%, which is 21st. So their special teams need work, but their goals for and their goals against are both in the top 10 in the NHL. So things are cruising along pretty well for them. And keep in mind, they are the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. That means a lot. That means that when you get into that 7-game series, yeah, they're used to this. They're old hats at it. And honestly, if they can win this one, be the first team to win 3 cups in a row since the Islanders did it in the early 80s, it will be a remarkable achievement, a really true dynasty nobody can deny. People will try. Plenty of people will try, but it's still a dynasty, 3 in a row. So, yeah, Tampa set themselves up pretty well. Carolina, 29 games, 21-7-1 record, 43 points, so 1 point less than Tampa and 1 less game played. 741 points percentage. Now they're 6-4 in their last 10. So while people are excited about how they've played over the last couple of weeks, they've had some tough times in there too. 6-4 over their last 10. Regulation wins, they have 19, which is the highest number on this board. At home, they're 9-3. Away from home, they're 12-4-1. So again, doesn't matter whether they're at home or on the road, they have an excellent record at both. And that really is what separates the elite teams from everybody else in the NHL this year. Goals for per game, 3.28, which is 8th overall. Goals against per game, they lead the league at 2.14 goals allowed per game. So Carolina, if defense wins you championships, Carolina's right there. Power plays, 22.5%, which is 10th. Their penalty kill, 88.7%, which is 2nd. So their overall numbers are absolutely better than Tampa's, and they've been excellent on the season. The last 10 games, Tampa has 17 points, Carolina has 12, and so we'll see in the new once we return and we get into the new year as well, whether or not those trends continue as they are. Keep in mind, of course, Carolina's only cup, 2006, but they're known for long runs. They're known for long runs in the playoffs. The last couple of years has been an exception to that. I think it's because Carolina's not used to making the playoffs in back-to-back years. It's thrown them off, but they're due for another long run. So would I be surprised to see Carolina come out of their division and Tampa come out of theirs? Not really. Wouldn't surprise anybody, really. And then you get into the Capitals. The Capitals might be a team that can stand in the way of Carolina Hurricanes. 31 games, 18, 6, and 7 is their record. That 7 is by far the highest number of losses in extra time of any team on the board. But 43 points, they have a 694 points percentage. Their points percentage is very good. Over their last 10, though, they're 5-3-2. So it's been a mixed bag for them. Regulation wins, they have 16, so they have more than Tampa, even though they have 2 less wins overall. 43 points is good. At home, they were 9-3-4. Away from home, they're 9-3-3. Again, they need more wins in overtime and shootouts. That would definitely give them a better record. That would have catapulted them to the top of the league if they'd had that luck in post 60 minutes that they don't have. But, you can only go with what you've got. And their goal scoring is pretty good. Not really a surprise considering they've got that grade 8 guy. 3.42 goals per game, which is 5th. Their goals against is respectable as well, 2.58, which is 6th overall in the NHL. So they're top 6 in both goals for and goals against. That tells you they're probably a contender. Yeah. But their power play, 15.6%, 28th. That's woeful. And I understand, like, Backstrom's been out for most of the season, so that's going to have an effect on it. But still, that seems really low. Really, really does. Penalty kill, 81% even, which is 14th overall in the NHL. Of course, they won the 2018 Stanley Cup. Since then, it's been more of that. It's a similar trajectory they followed since the 2018 Cup to the one they had before the 2018 Cup, and that's problematic. They need to turn that around. We'll see whether or not they can get that done. Definitely, if they can win more games when it gets to the overtime and shootouts part of the game, that would help them tremendously. Toronto, 30 games, 28-2. 42 points. They have a 700 points percentage. And here's what's interesting is, at 700, their points percentage, not that far off from Tampa. Tampa has 2 losses in extra time. Toronto doesn't have. They have those in regulation. So you would think that people would respect that, well, Toronto's in that same category. But Toronto, I'm going to skip to this right here. No first round wins since 2004. They have to win a round. They have to. It has to happen, right? Now, they're trending in the right direction. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Currently, as I'm recording this, of course, Nylander just went into protocols, and there's a lot of player in protocols. I think they're up to like 13. I'm not sure about them coming back on the 27th. We'll put it that way. Regulation wins, they have 17 regulation wins. So that's high, right? At home, they're 12-4-1. Away from home, they're 8-4-1. All of the numbers tell you Toronto's a contender, but people will point to this. No first round win since 2004. They absolutely have to get out of the first round. I would argue they kind of have to get out of the second as well. Let's just say in the first round they win a series against Florida. And then in the second round they face Tampa and they get eliminated in 5 or 6. I don't think people are going to say, oh, well, at least Toronto's taking that next step. People will answer with, well, they beat Florida. Well, Florida hasn't won a round in longer since them, so it doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, they have to go on a bit of a run here. Their goals for per game, 3.27. That's 9th. Keep in mind they started the season kind of low in that category. They've really bumped it up thanks to that Matthews kid. Goals against per game, an even 2.5, which is 4th overall in the National Hockey League. So Toronto, it's been a good little run here. Power play, 30.6%. They're second because Edmonton's power play is ridiculous. Penalty kill, 82.1% for 10th. So they're top 10 in every category here, which is the same as Carolina. They're ahead of Tampa in that category. They're ahead of the Capitals in that category. Is anybody else top 10 in everything? No, nobody else is top 10 in everything, but just Toronto and the Carolina Hurricanes. So that's where it's interesting, because again, people will perceive that as, well, yeah, but Toronto's not really a contender because, and they'll mention those first round knockouts. They'll mention, especially the Montreal series last year, they absolutely have to get past that. New York Rangers, not expected to be this high at this point in the year. 30 games, 19-7-4 record, 42 points, also 700 points percentage. So 6-3-1 is their record over their last 10. Regulation wins, they have 17, same as Toronto. So they're ahead of a lot of the other teams on the board too. And I point out regulation wins because that is the first tiebreaker at the end of the season in terms of who finishes where in the playoffs. 8-3-2 is the record at home. Away from home, it's 11-4-2. So again, very good at home and very good on the road. In order to get to the top of the standings, that is the key until you get down to Florida. But Goals for per game played, 2.83, which is 17th. Surprisingly low, considering how dynamic the Rangers are. And I think that number is going to improve as the season goes along. Goals against per game, 2.53, which is 5th. So the Rangers, who've had a maligned blue line for years and questionable goaltending at points over the last few years, this year both of those have been excellent for the New York Rangers. Their power play also excellent, 25.6%, which is 6th. Their penalty kill is also 6th in the league at 84.3%. The Rangers, the last time they had some serious success would have been the 2014 Stanley Cup Final. They're looking to get back to that kind of form. Do they have a goalie in Shesterkin that can do the same thing that Lundqvist did for them in 2014? We shall see. We haven't really seen him in a full-on best-of-7 playoff series as of yet. Florida's this oddball on the board because they're trending in the wrong direction, right? 29 games, 18-7-4 record, 40 points, 690 is their point percentage. 4-5-1 in their last 10. They have 13 wins in regulation, which is tied with Minnesota and Tampa for the fewest on the board. That's a bit of a surprise. At home, they're 14-3. They've been excellent at home. Away from home, they have not. 4-4-4. And so that's the key thing. That seems to be their Achilles heel at this stage, although I also acknowledge Florida had a lot of wins at home, and they've started losing at home. So that 14-3 probably flatters them a little bit at this point. They need to turn things around. Their goal scoring has been excellent during this season. 3.55 goals a game, which is 3rd. Their goals against, that's letting them down. So the defense, the goaltending has been letting them down in general. 2.93 goals against per game, which is 18th. So they need to improve that. Their power play, surprisingly low. 16.8% at 25th. And when you look at the dynamic forwards they can throw out on the ice, and you've got Ekblad on the point, and you can put Weegar out there and a lot of guys who can really produce points, it is weird to see them 25th on the power play. That has to get better. Their penalty kill is also surprisingly low, 80% even, which is 17th in the NHL. So outside of goals for per game, they don't look like a contender at all. And so for Florida, again, they haven't won a round since 1996. In the event that they, say, make the playoffs and lose against Toronto in round 1, or let's say they end up dropping to a wild card spot, Boston comes up and knocks them down to a wild card spot, and they lose in a crossover against the Capitals or the Canes, or maybe they lose against their state rivals in Tampa, all of the hype and all of the excitement will be gone at that point. If this team makes the playoffs and loses in the first round, the narrative then becomes, so Florida can't win a round still. And then we get into, do they need to change their core? The same kinds of questions that we've seen around Toronto. And at points we saw with the Capitals before they finally won their cup too. So for Florida, it's important they turn this around. If you're going to have your bad games and your bad weeks, do it in December. Do it in November. And then once we get out of post-All-Star break, put it there. Post-All-Star break, you want to be playing your best hockey. Right? So it's important for Florida to learn from this and turn it around. And especially that goals against. Because if they keep losing, 6 out of 10, they could find themselves in trouble pretty quick here. Minnesota, 30 games, 19-9-2 record, also 40 points, 667 points percentage. So they're behind on the points percentage, comparatively speaking, with Florida, though they have one extra win. 6-3-1 over their last 10. Regulation wins, they have 13. But again, 6-3-1 over their last 10. They just have to keep playing like that, and they may very well win themselves the division. They don't have to be perfect, just 6 out of 10. Keep pegging it off like that, get the odd extra point here and there, and you're good. At home, they're 10-2-1, away from home, 9-7-1. So they're better at home than they are on the road, but on the road, they're still a couple of games above 500. So that's key, right? And their home record is intimidatingly good, one of the best on the board. Goals for per game, they're second in the league at 3.63. Remember when Minnesota was really boring and couldn't score goals? Defensively, they were pretty good. Their goaltending was all right, but they couldn't score. Those days are gone. Goals against per game, and even 3, which is 19th. They need to make that better, which is weird because Talbot's had a really good season, and I've liked Kakinen as well, so I'm kind of surprised they've got 3.00 as their goals against per game, but here we are. 17.5% of the power play, 21st. It's felt a lot like last year. They have a great power play and then a miserable power play. It can happen in the same game. They can go 3 games where their power play looks unstoppable, and then the next 3, good luck. Can't put anything, and it can't put the puck in the ocean kind of thing, right? So, yeah, that's been weird. Their penalty kill, 81.1%. It's 12th. I mean, it could get a little better, but when a power play is 20% and above, I don't really think it's a big deal. When a penalty kill is 80% and above, I don't think it's necessarily a huge deal either. Although 80% gets you 17th, 81% gets you 12th. And of course, for Minnesota, the big storyline with them is since 2003, when they made the conference finals, it has not been a lot of fun for them. The playoffs have been just disappointment. So for this team, I mean, there's a lot of excitement about how well they're playing. Kaprizov's been fantastic. Of course, Zuccarello, when he's been healthy, he's been very good. But is Minnesota a contender? I think that question's still out there. And again, until they get back to, say, even a conference final. If they made it to a conference final this coming year, I think that would be seen as a win. Because you've still got a lot of players there that are young, and they're still coming into their own, and so that kind of playoff experience could be huge. Vegas, 32 games, 20-12 is their record, 40 points, 625 points percentage. Worthy of pointing out, though, they are tied for the most wins on the board. So they do win a lot of games. They just don't lose anything in extra time. They're 8-2 in their last 10, so they're definitely peaking at the right time. They and Tampa Bay being the two teams that have 8 wins in their last 10 games on the board. Regulation wins, 16. Their home record is 10-7. Their away record is 10-5. And I remember early in the season, their away record was not good. Their home record was mediocre. Now both of them look pretty good. Goals for per game. They're fourth in the league at 3.47 goals per game, which is, again, it's into remarkable status because they've played so much without guys like Stone and Pacioretty, and yet they've been able to put up goals. Their goals against has to get better. 3.06 goals against per game, which is 20th. So that's an issue. However, they've been outscoring their problems thus far. Power play, 19.2%. That's 15th. I'm going to give their power play a bit of a pass because it was miserably bad for a long time. It's gotten a lot better. So while it's 15th overall, it's been excellent over the last month. Penalty kill, 76.9%. That's 25th. That's an ouch. That's something that I think needs to be worked on. But again, they've had a hard time getting a lineup together. Everybody has lately, but for Vegas, it's been an ongoing thing all season. And so we'll see if the penalty kill gets it going. The fact that goals against and penalty kill seem to be tied to one another, not a huge surprise. 2018, they make the Stanley Cup final in their first season, and they've been dying to get back since. So for Vegas, I think anything short of a finals appearance would be considered a disappointment. They've made it to conference finals. They've done that. Been there. And they made it to semifinals. They need a Stanley Cup final. And there are those Vegas fans that will only be happy with a Stanley Cup as well. So there's that. And then we get down to Colorado. So Colorado's an interesting case because they were a favorite before the season started. 27 games, 17-8-2 record, 36 points. There are teams between Vegas and Colorado as well. 667 is their points percentage. So they're ahead of Vegas. And they're tied with Minnesota in points percentage behind everybody else on the board. Over their last 10, they're 7-2-1. So they got the same record as Toronto over their last 10. Regulation wins, they have 16. So they're right middle of the pack on regulation wins as well. At home, 10-2-1. Very, very strong at home. Away from home, 7-6-1. So that's something that is an issue. They're not as good away from home as they are at home. So you need to figure out why that is and maybe alter your game here and there. And so for Colorado, they've been flirting with contendership status. But again, they weren't inclusion on the board because so many people were picking them for the Cup before the season started. And I'm not sure that those people would be as confident right now. Their goals for per game is 4.22, which is first. It's ridiculous how much they're scoring. And they're playing 80s hockey because their goals against is not great. 3.37 goals against per game, which is 27th overall in the National Hockey League. Their power play is good, 23.4%, which is 9th. Their penalty kill, 75.6%, which is 28th. So, not great. And for Colorado, 2001, they won the Stanley Cup. That was their last Stanley Cup of 2. They won it in 96 as well. And so they're looking to at least get back to a Stanley Cup final and show that upward momentum. While Toronto's bane of their existence has been round 1, for Colorado it's been round 2. And so this year it's really important that they make that move beyond round 2. And there are still people taking them to win a Stanley Cup. It's not going to be easy because they're going to have to be better on the road, and they're going to have that ability to win those games, those game sevens, that to this stage hasn't been there. But we'll see what happens. So I guess the question I have is, if you're going to name contenders, and for me, I would say that Tampa, Carolina are the definites, right? Colorado will be seen as a definite too in all likelihood because, well, everybody took them before the season started. And I'd also throw Vegas in there too because Vegas usually does go on runs in the playoffs. But then for the ones in the middle, Minnesota, Florida, Rangers, Toronto, and the Capitals. Which one's most likely to be dangerous? And why is it the Washington Capitals? So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always regarding which teams are contenders and which ones are not. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.